Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm just waiting for our guest right now because she's trying to log in. So we're going to give her a few more minutes. She's trying to log in. I hope we're all well. Let me see. All right. Let me. Hello, everyone. I want to make sure. Hello, everyone. Just bear with us as I wait for our guest. She's on her way. She's trying to do something, get some things right at our office. So let's just wait for her for a few minutes. I hope everybody's well. While we wait for our guest, can we please share? Can you do me a favor? Like my sister Wendy always says, sharing is caring. So please share this on all of your social media. Hey, Sharon, how are you, my dear? Can we start to share while we wait for our guest to come in? She is having some issues with logging in, so but she's gonna be here shortly. So can we just share, please? Let's share while we wait for her. Let's share this as you're coming. Let's do the sharing because sharing is caring, right, people? Sharing is caring. So let's do some sharing here. Okay, let's go. Hey, Sharon. I'm trying to figure out who else is there. Who else is out there? Trying to figure out who else is there. Who else is out there? I am sharing this right now, so bear with me. Please, let's share as we get in. Let's start to share, please, as we get it. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the hearts. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Krista. Welcome. Andrea, welcome. I'm not sure why people say they're looking for me. Hey, sis Wendy, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Ramona, welcome. I'm waiting for our guest. She's trying to log in, so we're just waiting a little bit. She had to reboot her system all over again, so we're having to wait for her. Can somebody get Tessa? I can't help her right now. I don't know. She has to look. She has to look. Tessa says she can't see me. So can somebody get her? Can somebody help Tessa out? Because I'm not understanding why she's not seeing me. She needs to scroll up. Tessa needs to scroll up or something. Somebody get her, please, and let her know. Because she says she can't find me. So let's just wait a little bit because our guest had to reboot her system all over again at our place of work. Linda doesn't see me either. I'm not. Can somebody get them? I don't know why they're not seeing me. I'm not sure why they're not seeing me. So please, can somebody help them out and tell them to scroll. When they get on I Am Princess of Suburbia, they need to scroll up. So please help them out. Help them out. Oh, you have to click on videos? Wow, I'm not sure why that is. Help them out, everybody. I hope people will not miss me here because it seems like some of you are having problems getting on. So I hope everybody's well. It's going to be an awesome one. I'm just waiting for our guest. She had to reboot her system all over again. So just bear with her as she tries to maneuver it. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it, worth it, worth it. It's going to be worth it. Let me try and see if I can catch her now. Let's see. Okay. So let's see. I hope we're all well. Oh gosh. She's there, but I can't see her. Oh, I see her. I see her. I see her. All right. We made it. Hey, Mariah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, let's see.
Yes, 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 yes.
Hello.
I was very afraid for you. I was like, oh my God, what happened? How are you?
I am here. I'm here. Thank you for your
It
patience.
is great to put a face. That face did not change from those pictures then, eh? I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe I was expecting something else or whatever, but you look beautiful. You're beautiful.
Well, right back at you. Thank you. I'm going to try to put these messages aside. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everybody is already piling in, and so they're watching us right now. We're live. So let me get my act together now.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, trying to like not overwhelm us with like it's a cooker today.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty bright and sunny in my neck of the woods.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe that will bring a little breeze. Well, everybody, thank you so much for just hanging in there with us. Thank you so much. Let me get you all on my phone so I can get your responses. I know you guys have been waiting for this mystery guest. You've been waiting and waiting like, who is this mystery guest? Well, Oh, for sure. Welcome. My designer is here too. My fashion designer is here. Um, awesome. I got lots of people here. Cool. That's awesome. So let me do something here. Let me get us situated here, and then we can get this party started. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for those who are new to my broadcast. My name is Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock. You all call me your vision, your number one global vision midwife. Others regard me as your life strategist because I really do help you to deliver in your vision and in your dreams. And one of the ways that I help you to deliver in your vision and your dreams is bringing to you powerhouse people, those who have solutions to your issues, and no other than my mystery guest. I'm going to have her. You know how we roll here. We love our guests to toot their own horn. See, she's already in already. She already got it. She got it. That's right. So she got it. See, she got it. So let me say this, Mariah. We love to just allow our guests to toot their horn.
Okay.
This is not the place where you cannot boast. You can boast because you walked halfway. All right. And so, yeah, see, toot toot. And ever so often, I'm going to be turning around on this side to look at their comments because they have questions for you.
Oh boy.
So,
Okay.
yesterday, this is what we did yesterday. So yesterday in the group, we put a postcard up there for people who have questions. Well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So we have questions, but some of these questions we're going to delay them for your masterclass. Remember that thing that you and I talked about?
Okay.
All right. We're going to delay some of it for your masterclass because I'm telling you all, she's going to have a masterclass for you. Just like Dr. Stephen Mansfield did, she's going to have a masterclass for you also. She's not going to answer all of your questions here because masterclass will do that. And you know me, how I roll. I don't try and cover things up. She is going to have a masterclass. Right, Mariah?
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Rolling
So thank you so much. Thank you. That's right. Let's roll. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers right now? Tell them a little bit about yourself because all they've known so far is number one, they got a half face of you. Then at some point they got a whole face of you. And then they're like, oh, but damn, what's the name of this person? I said, well, you're going to have to wait today. So can you tell them what your name is and what you do?
Okay. My name is Mariah Lichtenstern. I am your quintessential serial entrepreneur. I'm the founder of CineShares, which is a marketplace for the motion picture industry, connecting filmmakers and their constituents from script to screen. And I'm also the co-founder of Diversity Ventures, which is an impact-oriented venture capital firm. And our focus is on impact-oriented investments that's social, environmental, and economic impact. And we're particularly interested in underrepresented founders, and that's by virtue of not only gender and ethnicity, but geography, socioeconomic status, and generally otherness. And we believe that, diverse perspectives are valuable and underutilized. And so we're capitalizing on those diverse perspectives.
Well, let me say this. This is what I love about what you do, because I told you when we met that I've been watching you for at least a year now, like eyeing you, just eyeballing you and trying to figure out, and I'll tell my VAs, I said, well, when I'm not eyeballing her, you need to be somebody needs to keep an eye on this one here, because there's something that she's doing, there's something that's peculiar for our generation and for the generation now, for those, even the past generation that did not have opportunity of financing or funding their businesses. And here you are coming in with opportunities of how do we get you funded? Which way do we get whatever your project is funded? So I want us to divide this. You are at the intersection of technology, entertainment, and venture capitalism. I love that. I love that about you, that you're able to take all those three. Ever so often people tell me that I'm crazy because I have this nursing art of mine. I wear a nursing hat here. I have entertainment here, and somehow I'm able to merge the two. Don't ask me how, but I'm able to merge the two. And people say, I said, well, that's why I'm a vision midwife. I'm a nurse midwife and a vision, So for what you've done is actually literally merge these three areas: technology, entertainment, venture. Let's start with this. What is venture capitalist? What does that even mean?
Okay, wonderful. And I think it's great that your show is affording the opportunity to get this information out there, because I will tell you, growing up, I had no idea what venture capital was. I didn't even know what engineering was until I was in college, even though I took calculus AP, I took statistics AP, I took physics AP. I could have very easily gone on that track, but I didn't have any examples, and I didn't have counselors encouraging me to go in that direction. And now we're finding studies about the bias around this, but there's very few women who are participating in venture capital. There are very few people of color, and part of it is awareness, and part of it is network. And it doesn't help when you have a school system that tends to track people onto certain vocations. But venture capital is essentially the business of investing in high risk, high return businesses, and they're scalable businesses generally. And what that means is, for example, if you have a piece of software and you write the code for it, and now it's downloaded digitally, what's also known as SaaS, software as a service, that could be an example. Once that software is made, barring updates that may be required, there's very little cost in producing subsequent versions of that. So it could go out one version of software that's already been built. The engineering team has already put the cost into building it. It can be distributed to millions, billions of people without heavy manufacturing costs that would be required for, say, a car, right? Or a restaurant's plate of food. It can be scaled to reach a very wide audience. And so venture capital invests in typically those types of businesses. There are exceptions and specialties, say bioscience or, some other examples that may be like hardware. But venture capitalists, they capitalize on ventures that are scalable. So that would be venture capital in a nutshell. And there's certain economics around the kind of deals that they look for.
Okay, you said they capture on ventures that are scalable.
Yes.
Can you explain that? What do you mean scalable? Because I want my folks to understand that, because let me say, I'm looking right now, we have people from London, we have people from South Korea, we have people from all over listening right now. And so that word scalable, we need to understand that. Could you tell us what does that mean to have a scalable business? Because they need to understand that right now.
Absolutely. And really, venture capital is relatively new. I mean, there's always been capital for various ventures throughout humanity, but the venture capital that I'm involved in, this industry, is basically born out of Silicon Valley post-World War II, and Steve Blank, during World War II and post-World War II. Steve Blank does a really good job of giving the history of it. But to go back to the point of what is scalable or not scalable, let's look at like an SMB, right? A small or medium business or enterprise, like let's say a hair shop. There's only so many clients that an owner could meet in a given day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's not scalable.
Oh, go back and do that again. Go back and do that, because people need to hear that. Because there are some, do that again, please, and give us another example.
Sure. Oh. One of the best examples, and what really sparked my interest in this industry, it goes back to a Ghanaian friend of mine who was working for a stockbroker. His name was Kojo Emmanuel. And he was working for what was then Solomon Smith Barney. And one of the stockbrokers gave him Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant. And he passed those books on to me. And for example, with Cash Flow Quadrant, there's a quadrant on, this quadrant on the cover, and it has, let's see, we're mirror image, right? So it would go employee up here, right? Then self-employed, and then business owner and investor. Okay, if we can visualize that. I wish I had some of something to draw with. But self-employed, basically, you are dependent on your own income from your employer, right? Or excuse me, rather, when you're an employee, you're dependent on your income from your employer. Self-employed, you have the freedom to employ yourself, right? Which can sometimes even be harder than being employed by someone else. And that would be, for example, a lawyer with their own practice, or a doctor with their own practice, or an accountant, or something of that nature, even a cosmetologist where you're working for yourself. Once you get into the entrepreneur and investor side, that's where your money should be working for you, and you shouldn't be dependent on your own labor, right? So I
just love what you just look. There is a phrase here that we use here. We say crack the code.
Crack the
so
code.
When you hear me say crack the code, you just crack the code right there.
Okay.
Because we should get to, any business, regardless of what it is, should get to a point where the money is working for you and not the other way around.
And
what you just said?
This could be true as an employee. If you're an employee, you have a 401k, that's your investment, right? That money is presumably working for you. But, of course, as you get more sophisticated, right, you may be more intentional or focused on that quadrant. And, naturally, you look at someone like Warren Buffett, who is a, full-time investor. Obviously his money is working for him every day, and that's the focus of, whether he goes on vacation or whatever, the money is still working for him. And the same is true of an enterprise when you're a business owner. So again, it should be ESBI, employee, self-employed, business, investment, right? Business owner, investor. So, you may be a hairdresser, and you start hiring other hairdressers. Now you're starting to scale a little bit, right?
Oh, so if you're a hairdresser and you start hiring other hairdressers.
Yes. Then you may, now you're more on the business side, right? You're going from self-employed to business.
Wow.
Right? Because now you have other people that are working for you, so you can go on vacation, and hopefully if you have a good manager, or they're self-managed, the business will still run, right? The clients will still come. Now, that type of business is still hard to scale. How would you scale something like that, right? You're still going to reach a capacity of clientele that you can take, even if you hire other people. So now, say for example, if you say, well, I love cosmetology, and I see that there's these problems in this industry, but I've gone as far as I can business-wise in growing this. What else can I do to make this a scalable business? And you look at a company like, say for example, Maven, who one of my friends and mentors has invested in. And Maven basically provides inventory for hair, at least this is their go-to-market, right? So that stylists don't have to carry the hair product, and clients don't have to go and, bring their own. And so they created a piece of software whereby they created a marketplace where hairstylists and vendors of hair could provide this, could come together and exchange, to where the hairstylist can now order the hair as a client demands. Now, that doesn't make the stylist scalable, but the software is scalable, because there's not a limit to how many hairstylists can come onto the platform, or how many hair vendors can come onto the platform.
Crack the code right there. So for those who are watching right now, they have to have a goal of start thinking, how are they going to make their business, whatever it is. We have entrepreneurs, we have writers, we have people in the movie industry, which we're also going to talk about, those who actually have stories that they want to do, because I know you have two components, and we're going to break that in two and talk about each part of it. So that, because I know that some of my writers are probably sitting there and saying, but how can I scale myself? But there is a way you could do that.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, let's go there for a second. With writing, once you write a book, every sale, once you break even on your sales, every subsequent sale, you don't have to write another book, right? So that is actually scalable. That's like writing a piece of software.
Go back. I want you to sit in that. Sit a little bit in the writing section for a little bit. Go back and yeah, just a little bit. Tell us, say that again. How do they scale themselves again? I want to hear that more.
Well, it's not that they scale themselves, but their product is somewhat scalable. Once you write a book, assuming it's marketable, and that's a whole nother question where we're getting into like MVP and viability. Once you've written the book, the writing is done. If you send it to the publisher or you self-publish, that's done, right? So every copy that you sell is no additional cost to you as a writer, right? Maybe to your publisher or the printer or whatever. There may be those kind of costs. But once you break even, then every subsequent book is going to be profit, right? So that's somewhat scalable. Now, the printing cost, of course, now you get into the realm, we can compare that with hardware or other types of businesses that require manufacturing. You have to factor in those costs. So it's not just straight profit like a software as a service could be, right? And then there's always operating costs in any company. But point being, once you break even on a book, the book is already written. The challenge is there a market for that book? Is it a story that people want to hear? And how wide is your market? Is it, is it 1 million people? For venture capital, that's not compelling. The economics don't really intrigue them. That would be a risk that a publisher might take, right? Is it 10 million people? Is it 100 million people? And is it the world's population, as with the internet? That's scale. So scale just basically means something that can go out to a very large market. The market can expand. And it's not confined like it would be with, say, a hairstylist or an attorney who can only handle so many meetings in a given day or so many clients in a time period.
So let's break this interview into two. Let's talk about, you have Diversity Ventures, and then you also have CineShares.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So can you take one at a time and tell us what each of them are? So that, because I want our listeners or our viewers to continue to start seeing themselves, plug themselves into where you're going with this.
Okay, well, see, now you're tapping into my right brain, my creative side. I'm going to go into storyteller mode here. So, so essentially, I'll just give you a little history, a little background. I, again, was not a very, I guess I was entrepreneurial growing up, but I wasn't exposed to a lot of entrepreneurship. My mother was the director of nursing, actually. My stepfather was a trucker for most of the time that I knew him. He had also owned at least one business that I'm aware of that ultimately went under. But, working class family. And I grew up in a farm area. So a lot of farmers, which are also, business owners, right? But typically, small business, certainly not scalable in the sense that we're talking about today. So that was the environment that I was in. And I was entrepreneurial in finding ways to make money. I aspired to go into cosmetology, always loved that industry. And I kind of stumbled into venture capital and entrepreneurship. So partly by virtue of my upbringing and being in a very culturally segregated and, not so, this is America, right? I live in California. It's a very diverse state, very highly populated state, but most of it is farmland. So I happen to be multi-ethnic. My mother was Caucasian. My father was African-American. My stepfather was also Caucasian. And I'm using very general terms that I don't necessarily endorse, but just for the sake of understanding. So I describe myself as multi-ethnic. And, it was somewhat hostile growing up. I was the kid who hung out with the kids that other people didn't want to hang out with or that were different. And so that's partially where I have my appreciation for difference and diversity. But by the time I got to college, I was very interested in understanding, why would people dislike each other for reasons that are out of our control, the color of our skin, things like that. It's just, why can't people get along when it comes to things like that? So I ended up studying ethnic studies. I majored in rhetoric as narrative and the image. So these are not technical fields, very liberal arts areas, right? Minored in English, Pan-African Studies. But my thesis was around representations of people of color in the media. So now I'm getting to CineShares, right? So during that time, I met my Ghanaian friend who, exposed me to these books. And I also met my husband, who was on scholarship from Botswana and studying film. Now, my father's side of the family, whom I reunited with by this time, were very, artistic. A lot of them had been in movies. My dad was in several movies. He was a fine artist, dancer, poet, all of that. So my family had tried to encourage me to get into performance, but I was never interested in entertainment in that way until I met my husband, and he started, he basically imparted his passion about filmmaking, and I started watching and helping with his sets, and I had a skill set in producing. And one of the things that I noticed was that it doesn't matter how good of a storyteller you are, and this should speak to your audience. If you don't have access to capital and distribution, you're not going to reach the widest audience possible. And what does any storyteller want? They want their story to get out, right? It's like in them. And I know, because my husband's also a writer, so I know that when that is in you, you have to get it out. It's not even a question. Like, if you're not writing, you're dying, right?
Yes, that's right.
I get that. I understand. And entrepreneurs are driven in the same way. And so during that period of time, I took a great interest in not only this dynamic, and then of course, sitting the representations of people of color in the media, I recognize that people of color don't have control of their cultural product, whether you're talking about Elvis Presley covering Black artists or, other examples of that during the 50s and 60s and so on. Even when we've been producers, we have not been owners. And I say we as people of color, just generally speaking, historically in this country, there's a lot of economic dynamics that have affected us and put us at a disadvantage, right? And that's just the facts of life. And those have generational impacts. So at this point in the early 2000s, it was a Napster era. So we have Napster disrupting the music industry, and I'm looking at, the fiber optics being laid for, high bandwidth. We couldn't do what we're doing now. I used to Skype with my friend in China via dial-up, but it's this era. So I could see the digital adoption in the film industry. Theaters were just starting to bring in digital projectors and whatnot. It was a very expensive process laying that infrastructure. But looking at Napster, I could see that same kind of disruption could happen in the movie industry. But I also saw an opportunity for what I then called substreams of distribution that could enable those who had been historically underrepresented or misrepresented, or who had limited representation. And some of us know about that, right? There's that running joke that the Black person in the horror movie is the first one to die, or any movie, right? The Black person's the first person to die.
I have to say that, and my husband laughs. He laughs about it. Every time I say it, I say, watch, they're about to kill him off. And then they get him killed.
It's the running joke. It's the running joke. And so, yeah. And things are changing. We have, I'm so excited to see the trailers and everything for Black Panther. And, we've had great milestones. And, honestly, historically, there have been amazing filmmakers of color. They're just not mainstream. And so, I'm very hopeful, and I think a lot of people, the data shows that people are embracing diversity. There's always going to be the bad apples that, don't want progress or are bigoted or whatever their problem is. We're going to have to always deal with that. And this is an interesting time in that regard, with so much progress and then so much weird stuff going on politically, but we won't go there. So anyway, that was basically the foundation of CineShares. And so, I took an interest in the motion picture industry and where it was going in particular, and how technology could be applied to disrupt the current economics. So I ended up going to USC and UCLA's film schools for motion picture producing, which is the business side of film. So the marketing, the law, the finance aspect of it. And I made some interesting discoveries there around just the way that films are funded. It's very difficult to finance creative projects. It's a studio system. The studio system has greatly evolved. When I was a grad student, someone could go into a studio with an idea or, a book right, the rights to a book, and potentially get a deal. Those days are over. Those are also the days when an entrepreneur could walk in with a pitch deck and get a .com deal, right? And after the crash, people became, more diligent. And that's part of why now most tech teams require a technical co-founder. And that's part of the reason why LPs, limited partners, the investors who invest in venture capital firms, they require that. And so things kind of change slowly based on, market dynamics. But that was an impetus to get me into CineShares as an enterprise. And the whole purpose was, again, to, democratize access to the film industry. And so, the timing was difficult because back then you could not raise money for security, which is anything that basically you sell an investment in. And it's pretty broad, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll keep it there. At that time, under the regulations, you could only offer an investment of a security to people in your professional network.
Wow.
So just imagine if someone is coming from, a disadvantaged background. I mean, I was privileged to be at USC, so at least I had some access, right? But when you look at the broader, you look at the broader entrepreneurial base, if you're, a filmmaker, an aspiring writer in Detroit, how are you even going to get anywhere close to raising money if you don't have a network of high net worth individuals or access to that market? It's going to take a lot of hustle. It's going to take years of networking just to get into that. So things changed around 2012 with the Jobs Act. And it gradually went into effect. There's still some changes being made, but one of the biggest changes was that it allowed for business owners to engage in general solicitation. And what that means is that you could fundraise outside of your network. You could advertise on the radio or in the newspaper, and that's a very big deal. But you could only raise that money from accredited investors. And there are filing regulations. So you can't just go and raise. You still have to, abide by each state's law, which are called blue sky laws. But it did open up the opportunity to raise from a greater audience. And what is an accredited investor? Accredited investors currently in the United States, it is people who make individually $200,000 or more. If they're married, $300,000 as a household. And wow. who have $1 million of net worth that excludes their primary residence. Okay, now I'm not a lawyer, and so this is my layperson's version of the law around what an accredited investor is. But essentially, since the Jobs Act, this is the most popular way of equity fundraising for securities, which any business, anything that entails investment is a security. So that changed and that opened up massive doors. And so, when that happened and, social media became widespread, that adoption became widespread, I said, this is the time to go in and launch this company. So that's when I started ideating and testing out the market. I knew that I had tons of submissions coming to me from filmmakers every day, like anyone on LinkedIn.
Wow. You get a lot, you get tons. How do you, let's think about that. How do you even skim through the films that you get? How do you determine that golden goose? How do you determine it?
Well, I think that studios are still trying to crack that net, right? And we are applying technology to that. I can say that, as it wasn't scalable. I'd get all these submissions and there's no way that I could read every script that came in. There's no way I could, it's like, I posted an article the other day about how venture capitalists do their due diligence. And the average amount of time that they spend on due diligence is 25 hours. So you think about, how many companies will a venture capitalist see? We may get 2,000 submissions in a year, depending on, your deal flow or how well known.
Are you serious?
Seriously. And so when you see like, why do they limit, where their deal flow comes from? There are all of these dynamics in play, but they lead to some, some dysfunctional dynamics. But, when you look at the numbers, you may have, a typical venture capital firm will have around 2,000 submissions. They may look at 100 of them seriously. So you look at every company they choose to do due diligence on, it's going to be about a 25-hour investment. And some of those they'll move forward on, most they won't. Okay. And so it's kind of the same thing with the film, right? Because not only do you have to look at, okay, what is the script? Who's attached? Is there any traction or validation that this might work? And attachments could be part of that validation. A quality actor is going to want to do a quality project. You look at the team dynamics. You look at the chain of title. Is the chain of title clear? Or, have they shopped it around to a bunch of different executive producers that are
Ooh, this is good. You're cracking. I want you to slow down on this one because you're cracking. You're just going back to back to back with some codes that you're cracking right there. Because for those who are writers out there, which means that because I'm sitting there saying, dang, there's a lot of due diligence that writers out there, because we have writers out there that want to see, they have stories, they believe that their story is their story that is going to just, take off and change the world. And don't we all believe that? And so for you now, I'm sitting here saying they have a lot of due diligence that they have to do before they even come to somebody like you at all.
Yeah, well, again, with novels, it's different, right? It's a whole nother industry and specialty, right? And for CineShares, we look at projects that are script stage and beyond. It just takes too long to develop a script and to get it right. You can have 10 different screenwriters do a script and each one is going to be different. And, I've seen so many Hollywood movies go through so many iterations, and it's not uncommon for studios to hire multiple writers. It's not uncommon for there to be fights over who gets credit. So, again, this is part of why it goes back to chain of title, and this is part of the diligence you have to do. But if you're if you're an author and you've written one book, then chain of title is not really a problem because there's one author typically, right? And so that's pretty straightforward. With authors, it's a different dynamic. It's is there a market and how are you going to reach them? Okay, so, and this, you're a prolific writer. You've written several books that have done well. So, if you're writing something that involves overcoming adversity or drug addiction or suicide or, self-help books are very popular, whatever the case may be, what you want to do is say, okay, who is my audience? And this is so funny. I'll go on a little tangent, but I promise to come back.
This is good. We like it. We like it. Just keep going. Keep walking in this. I like that.
I will often ask creative people, filmmakers or otherwise, I'll say, okay, who is your target audience, right? And it's laughable how many times I say, oh, this is for everybody. Everybody will love it. Anybody can watch this, And it's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but no, we don't have the budget to market to everybody. That's not business minded. Okay. So put on your business hat and think like we do for a minute. Okay. We want to know who is your target audience, right? Who are the people that are going to be drawn to the subject matter and who are going to then be your ambassadors? They're going to help you reach that broader audience that may or may not be interested, right? But they're going to be the center. So again, target, you think of a target that you throw darts at or whatever, a dartboard, there's a bullseye, right? And then there's the larger target. So yeah, maybe, on this whole dartboard, there's everyone in the United States or every age or men and women and whatever, but who is your target? So in the case of drug abuse or overcoming suicidal thoughts or overcoming adversity, there may be a certain market that is going to be drawn to that more so than others. And how would you reach them? Would you reach them through affinity groups, through maybe certain magazines or certain radio shows that cater to people who are trying to overcome adversity? What resources are there? If it's a religious topic, maybe it's certain church denominations, you want to be in certain bookstores, right? So you need to compile your list of these channels for reaching your market, right? And so that's and that takes an entrepreneurial mindset. So, an author or a creative either needs to develop that or build a team that has that. And therein is the challenge. And that may involve also, now that you've identified your channels, once you've identified your target market and then the channels to reach them, now you have to execute on that. And, how you do that is going to determine your success. Are you reaching them via social media? Are you, and how are you doing that? Because when you're brand new and you have no followers, that's another hard nut to crack. Mm-hmm. And it may take time to build that up or to validate. You may have to pay for ads on Facebook or Twitter, and you don't want to do that randomly. you
That's
also
right.
want to target those, right? And learn the best practices with that. And there are secrets and nuances to how to do that effectively. So that's kind of like the dynamics when you're talking about an author. It's not so much about chain of title or, some of those other complications and diligence. Your real due diligence is who is your audience and how am I going to reach them and get them to buy my product. How are you going to develop a relationship with them and engage them on an ongoing basis?
So for an author now, for an author who is just starting off their career, who just have maybe one book to their name or maybe two or three, what would you advise them? Because they're probably looking at you now and say, oh, they have a story that they can pitch, right? We're going to talk about pitching a story to you too, because when I was talking to you, there were some questions you were dropping. And I said in my head, and herein lies the interview began. And so for me, there were specific questions you were dropping when we were talking, outside of this, of course. And I said, she's been doing this for a while. So I want us to, because we're not going to share everything, because you're going to have a masterclass. I just want you to titillate our people here. For authors, right? We're going to let's talk a little bit about pitching, right? How do they even know that they have something that they can even pitch to somebody like you? Because I know you're a very busy person, and I know that you're not one of those that they can easily go out there and start tracking all over the place, because there's a process to you. I've seen it. There's a process to you. And so somebody out there, drop me a line, drop me a link, drop me the link over there, because if you want information from her, and if you are going to be interested in when her masterclass comes out, please put your name, sign that mailing list so that we can pass it on. Talk to us about, number one, how does anybody, let's do it two ways. Those who have business right now, they have business, they want to build a brand. Then those who are authors saying, I have a story. I want you to take one example from each side and say, how do they determine, give them maybe one or two wow, bam, bam, pow moments, what they need to know that makes them say, oh, you know what? I think I have something great that I can pitch to Mariah.
Okay. So first things first, for both, I would say, make sure that you know, again, your audience, even if it comes to an investor. So for example, with myself, you probably wouldn't want to pitch me a novel, because I'm not the best person for that industry. I'm not a publisher. I'm not an agent. So I'm not going to be very helpful with that. If you have a screenplay, then I might be the right person. But then it's a matter of, when do you come to me? Because if you just come to me with a screenplay, it's going to be harder to stand out. Okay, so, and first of all, please do not send me just a screenplay, because I'm not going to read it. I'm like, I have way too much to do.
Can you say that again?
Don't send me a screenplay. So first of all, and this is true with business, you don't want to approach someone and just like throw them everything that you've put together. You kind of want to drip things out and gauge their interest. You don't want to overwhelm someone who's already overwhelmed. You want to, it's like dating, right? It's like your love life. When you first meet someone, you're like, oh, okay, you're attractive. It looks like you may be attracted to me. I think I might be your type. So you're not just going to show up on the first date in a negligee and say, let's get married. You know what I mean? You're not going to show up in a wedding dress and have all of your bags to move in. That's you don't want to do that. So you start things slow, like, this is me, this is a little bit about me. So with a screenplay, for example, you want to have a log line, you want to have a summary of your story, you want to have a treatment. So you want to have all these things already prepared, but you want to drip them out. You want them to ask for more, keep them wanting more, whether it's the first date or if it's your creative project or it's your business.
I like that.
So going over to the business side for a moment, if I'm at a conference or on a panel and someone comes up to me, if they, pitch me and then try to give me their 5-minute pitch, I'm going to totally shut down, because there may be 5 other people standing around who are waiting for their opportunity to give me a 30-second pitch and their card. And so I'm going to be more interested in that person that says, hey, Mariah, I've heard about you. I've been following you. My name is so-and-so, and this is what I do. I'd love to give you my card. Are you, I know you're on LinkedIn. Can I connect with you there and follow up with you? I'm going to be interested because first of all, they've shown me that they know how to handle themselves professionally and respect my time. And that's an indicator that they're going to have that same kind of respect and understanding in other business scenarios, right? Whereas you could come to me with a brilliant idea, I've solved world hunger, but if you drone on for about, 5 minutes and other people are like, oh, I really want to say hello, then I'm going to say, well, this person doesn't have that skill to know that that's not appropriate. So that's a discernment thing, and you're going to make a judgment call based on that, right? So you don't want to come with too much. So like assuming that someone has not met me personally, the best way to reach out, if you have a screenplay, start with the log line and maybe send me a message, or better yet, go to cineshares.com. And there's a submission portal and you can submit there. Now, if you submit there and you follow up with me and you say, hey, I just submitted this project, can you take a look at it? Then I'm going to personally go and check that out, and even if I can't get back to you right away, I'm going to be aware of that. And now if I'm backlogged and I can't respond right away, but you come back and say, hey, I sent this project on this time, wanted to know if you had a chance to take a look at it, I'm going to prioritize that. And maybe if someone else looked at it and it didn't jump to the front, I might say, hey, well, what did you think of this? And then, it just brings it up to the fold. Or if you've made progress on it, if you say, I sent this and now we have so-and-so attached, or, we've made this development, I may be more interested than I was before. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurs. You may meet a venture capitalist, and they'll say that the ideal way is to get to them through an entrepreneur in their portfolio that they've invested in. I'm different, partly because we're a smaller fund, we're innovative, and we're focused on identifying people who are typically excluded. So you can come in without a referral, and I will look at you. But if I'm not able or interested at that time, if you come back, a month or 2 or 3 later and you've made progress, that's a reason to come back and say, hey, the last time we talked, I was here, but now I'm here.
Let me ask you a question. Okay. For when you are done with the masterclass, right? When you are done with the masterclass, will the masterclass kind of give them even more a more concrete way of really doing this? Like really make it clear so that they can have even a little bit more access, or at least clarity in what they need to be doing to reach somebody like you?
Yeah, I think that we could definitely, if that's something that people want to know more about, I think we can certainly do that. And it's 2 different kind of hats, right? With the creative and with the general entrepreneurs. So on the creative side, again, I'm more focused on filmmaking. And so it would be like screenplay and beyond. And we could certainly do a whole master class on that. And there's resources out there too. I'm happy to do something that's more specific to CineShares, especially because we're an innovative approach to filmmaking, right? And on the business side, there are best practices out there. One little thing I'll throw out there, and people can get more in the masterclass, but there's a periodic table of VC blogs, right? So you can go out and see what venture capitalists are blogging about, and they talk about venture capital economics. They talk about the types of deals they do. They talk about all kinds of things. They talk about their personal lives, but you can kind of tap in and see, what the expectations and what the culture is. And again, we're a little bit different. We're a little innovative, or a little more inclusive. Obviously, I'm a woman and a woman of color, and so I'm more sensitive to the dynamics facing, diverse demographics. But yeah, absolutely, we could do a master class that drilled deeper into what the specific interests of your audience are, and where they are in the process. Because like as we started off the conversation about what is scalable, yes. That's foundational. Some people may already be there, they may already know that. But if it's a matter of getting there, I'm more than happy to put that knowledge base out there.
Yeah, because I do know, because I'm looking at the names, I'm looking at people that are coming in to the group right now, and I do know that many of them will need information on that scalability. What is scalable? And then not only that, no, we're not we're not doing that. Ramona Phillips, get that link, that link tree link. We want to keep everything under that link because of her masterclass. So we do not want to bombard her right now. We want to go straight into that portal that we have, so that
I haven't even seen any of the comments on Facebook or anything.
Oh, don't worry. I'm looking at them for you. You probably will have to look at them after you're done.
Screen them for me. Screen them.
You look at it, because what's going to happen is whatever questions they have left, we're going to pull those questions, right? And we're going to now pull them inside of the masterclass.
Yeah, because we're really scratching the surface here, and it's already a lot.
And then one of the things that we're trying to do, as you and I talked behind the scenes before, I don't necessarily want them to bombard you now, because there's a system. So there's a link that I've created for them to just put if they have information, put it out in there, so that when you're ready for your master class, this is what we did for the previous person. We had a whole list of the questions, and there was not, that man didn't go insane. He actually, he enjoyed the whole process. And so that's what we want to do here. I know that she did mention the name of her company, but I would ask that you please, let's follow process. You heard clearly what she was talking about. If you heard clearly what she was talking about, then you will follow process. Then you would know she's a woman of process. And if you skipped a bit, you just lost your own stuff, and there's just follow process. So it's very important. If you are a writer out there, right, you've already heard some of the things that she's talked to us about. If you are not a writer, but you have other businesses, she's also mentioned that. So I'm saying it right now. If you know that you're going to need more detail, because I know, only if you're insane, because all the things that she's talking about right now, I'm sitting there saying, oh gosh, I need a class right now. Because that's what I'm saying. I need more class. I just need more class about this. I was like, wow. So I was privileged to sit down and be talking about all of my movies with you. And here I was just chatterbox all over the place when she and I were talking, and she was pulling some of the things, the work that I've done, and I just went like a chatterbox. And
but one of the things, okay, so here's a great example with you, Dr. Princess. You left me wanting more, right?
Oh, I'm glad.
So, obviously, when you first reached out, I'm going to do, my research, and I see, what you're doing, and this is brilliant in two aspects. So, like we talked about earlier, who is your audience? So you have identified who your audience is, and now you're engaging your audience. So every time you release a book, you have an audience that you already know likes your writing and is interested, right? And so you've created a channel through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through your websites for engagement. I'm sure you have newsletters, right? So you can get out to them, hey, I've just released this new book. But you also add other value because you bring in speakers that can help people, because a lot of your audience is going to be people who do what you do, right? And so, venture capitalists follow each other, writers follow each other, filmmakers follow each other. And we are the ambassadors, right? So we're each other's target market, and we're going to, share what our friends are doing, right? And so you've done that with your channels. And so that was already compelling, that this is a woman who's serious. She's taken the risk on herself. She's willing to put herself out there. She's willing to fail. She's found success here. And this is how she's doubling down on it. So that left me curious. Then you had done this, these film projects, and, one in particular, kind of stood out to me. And I wanted to know more. You didn't just dump it all on me. You reached out with something very targeted. I did my research and found what was interesting. And then I pulled more from you when we spoke. And even then, you didn't bombard me, with 20 different things. We focused the conversation on, what was going on today. And then you answered the questions that I had, and we started to develop a relationship. And so, even in technology, we're human beings, right? If it was all technical and all purely logical, then machines would be running this process, right? There's always a human element. And so, judgment, relationships, all of those things are going to come into play. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is going to come into play. How you execute. And you could be masterful in one thing and horrible in another. You look at companies that are blowing up right now in the media, like what we see going on with Uber, right? And I don't know all the intricacies of the internal dynamics, but obviously there were problems that have now impacted the company where you have a hashtag about, what is it? Not uninstall, whatever, quit Uber, whatever, and so there's always a human dynamic that you have to factor in, even going back to building relationships with investors or other stakeholders. So, sometimes it's going to move a little more quickly, and it depends on how much you've already done to validate that you're someone that people can work with. And that's where track record comes in. But if you're kind of, like new out there, you're going to have to take the time to show that, you can pass the sniff test and that, like, I don't know if anyone's watched the movie Sparkle. But there's a part in there where the record label says, well, we want to see them at the light of day. We want to see them in the light of day. Yeah, they're performing at night here and they're great, but let's see if they can handle business, right? I want to see them in the light of day. And what happened when they came in for that business meeting? Well, the lead singer is strung out on cocaine and can't get out of the broom closet. So, we want to see that, like, okay, if I'm going to invest in you, if I'm going to spend so many years of my life helping you to succeed, introducing you to other people in my network, how are you going to act?
That's good.
You have an out of control ego. Are you easily offended? Can you not handle disappointment or the vicissitudes of entrepreneurship? Can you not get along with your team? Do you have 10 blowups behind you, based on the same pattern of behavior? We want to look at all of that. And sometimes, there's some people who are very successful and difficult. We've heard about Steve Jobs and others, but you better shine. You better make it worth it. And me personally, I don't want to deal with that. Like Steve Jobs is amazing, but would I have dealt with early Steve Jobs? Probably not. Life is too short. Money's not even real. It's a construct, and it is what it is. And that's what our world runs on and our society runs on, but it's not worth it. I'd rather, work with people that are, exciting and, care about the future of the world. They're telling dynamic stories. They're making technology that can improve people's lives, and they have a really good, balanced emotional intelligence. That's the kind of people I want to work with. So you did a good job of demonstrating that. And I would encourage other people to look at what you do and continue to learn from you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Let's talk some more about, okay. All right. So I'm excited about something. The lady whose film is on your website.
Oh yeah.
Talk to us about because I've been like, I gotta hear about this, because I looked at it, it was like Nigerian and Ghanaian. I'm like, come on now, this is my people.
Yeah. So BBO Shadbolt, and she is an awesome dynamic lady, very much like you. She came through she submitted her project. She followed up with me. She didn't bombard me with information, but what she did provide was compelling. She's put a lot of work into her project. She has made a movie before, and it had some film festival acclaim, and she's parlayed that into this next project. So first of all, I would say she's on Facebook, BBO Shadbolt. You can look for her previous film.
Can I say something? Can I say something there? The name of her film, I actually live there.
Okay, Victoria Island.
Lagos, Nigeria, Victoria. Yeah. So when I saw that, was like,
Yeah. So she's here. For those joining on Facebook, go ahead and like the Facebook page for BB Shadbolt. And you'll see her previous film, Afua's Diary, on there. And Victoria Island will be coming soon. We'll be addressing that audience. You can see she's got like 14,000, followers just from that film. So she's obviously put in work. She's identified who her audience is, right? And so these are some of the things that stood out to me about her.
She has identified who our audience is.
And she started building that. Now, this took a lot of time. It takes a film from green light to, from script to screen, on average, once it's greenlit, 2 years. That's, development, pre-production, production, editing, and then distribution, right? So you have to have persistence and endurance. And she demonstrated all of that in a multitude of ways. So the project is Victoria Island. The premise is that there's an American fashionista who works in the fashion industry in London. And she's got this posh life and this posh American boyfriend, and they're just living this life in London. And then her job says, well, hey, we want you to go and run this production house in Nigeria on Victoria Island. And so she goes there with all these stereotypes, and it's the last place that she wants to be, but things are not what she expected there. And so that's the setup for the film. And we have some Hollywood attachments, and some of that we'll be announcing. You can go to cineshares.com/boss, BOS, Victoria Island, and you can see her project website. So again, cineshares.com. That's CINESHARES. It's probably in the information there. So cineshares.com.
BOS. Yeah, I'm going to give them the
BOS Victoria Island, and read a little bit more about the project. You can subscribe to be on the mailing list. We're opening up opportunities for her market to contribute to the project. You can be involved as a Cine ambassador, and when you help share the project, we will reward you for your influence. So, one of the things that we do with Cine Shares is we give a return on influence. So we mentioned earlier about the securities laws and how they limited investment to accredited investors, with few exceptions. We won't go into the exceptions here. We can do it in the master class. The exceptions are very cumbersome. So there's very few opportunities for non-accredited investors to invest in technology or securities. I don't think that's right. I'm on a mission to allow, to make investments more inclusive. As a formerly FINRA licensed professional, I saw that as a problem then. It's still a problem now. But part of how we're addressing that with CineShares and with Diversity Ventures is, an innovative approach to fundraising. So with this project, you can become a Cine ambassador. And when you share, we give you a return on influence. Okay. So go ahead and go to cineshares.com. Check out BB's project, Victoria Island.
Let me see if I can
get involved now.
Let me see if I can write that here. Maybe I can type it on there for them, because that might not be clear the way you were saying it. Now, so of all the projects that you get, how did she? What jumped at you? What was it that jumped? That, because when I went on the website, you guys are obviously really putting everything behind this woman. What was it about her? Because we need to understand that. What was it about her that makes you say, you know what, this is the project we need to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, she did stand out. And I'll say this, I don't want to discourage anyone. Like, you don't have to be perfect. Not everything has to be perfect. If you're perfect, then there's no place to add value. Right? So you don't have to have everything, perfect, whether you're a startup or a filmmaker, but you have to be honest about, these are the areas where I need help, or this is where I am with this. And I just saw all of that with her. She was very transparent, very honest, very diligent. She was persistent without being annoying. She had, and that to me indicates emotional resilience. She asked the right questions. She wasn't trying to hide anything. And she had obviously done a lot of work, and she had a track record in that she had done this previous film. And, she had parlayed, the interest in that. She showed that she could produce. She made the movie, she got it into the festivals, it won some, had some acclaim, it got some press, she did her release. So she knows the process. And, anytime you make a movie, you're gonna learn from the process, right? And so that was one thing. She's a talented writer. She had, compelling log line and synopsis. And again, she didn't bombard me, she left me wanting more. Now, since I've read her screenplay, she's iterated on the screenplay. So it wasn't the screenplay that sold me. It was the premise of the story and how she had validated the audience. And then also it was a good match. My husband's African. I mentioned to you my Ghanaian friend that helped me, to even think entrepreneurially. I have a multitude of friends throughout the African diaspora, some first or second generation, some, straight from the motherland. And so I was already familiar with both Nollywood filmmaking. I was familiar with the Nigerian fashion industry. I have some friends who work in that industry. So it was a good fit. It was a good project to bring to me. She's a female, African filmmaker living in London. So, just everything about the project was in alignment. And I'm not, I look at projects by men, and, you don't have to be a certain ethnic group. It doesn't have to be a certain genre. But, if you stack all of the things together, the more matches there are, the more likely I am to say, oh, that stands out. I want to get behind this one personally. So, yeah, she did her research. She followed up. She was transparent. She was diligent. She stood out. So, yeah.
So let's talk about someone who has a story, which is a novel, but of course they want to turn it into a screenplay because their whole idea is to see it being made into a movie. So for them to come to someone like you, they probably have to work with a screenwriter first.
Yeah.
Take that idea.
Yeah.
It would turn it into a screenplay.
It would be, it would be impossible for me to take, all of the novelists who want to adapt into screenplays because it's a long process.
Yes.
And yes, absolutely. If someone wanted to get into, if they wanted to adapt their story into a screenplay, I would say, consider how you want to do it. Are you going to write the screenplay yourself, or are you going to find someone else to do it? Okay, so if you're going to write it yourself, you need to know how to write a screenplay. So then you'd want to go out, you'd want to read things like Story and Screenplay by Sid Field. You'd want to, maybe take some master classes or join some organizations. There's organizations out there, and I'm trying to think if one will come to mind quickly. Mm-hmm. But there's organizations out there that actually teach screenwriting. So you can join some classes, you can do the exercises and learn how. Now, typically, it's like a pancake. The first one is going to suck.
Yeah, that's right.
So, there's that option. But that may be easier if you're a talented writer and some writers, they just, they get it. Like, they're like, oh, that's the paradigm. I can do that. It's a gift.
And then the thing though is, if you're a novelist, the way you write is different from a screenwriter, because a novelist, you tend to stretch things and just stretch and stretch something that it's a 1 page on screenwrite. On a screenplay can be like 15 to 30 pages of a novel. And so a lot of times, depending on time or whatever, the times I tell people, look, just know your strength, know your lane. And if you have to partner with somebody that's already in that industry, so that person, you can start to learn from that person while you're writing this, while both of you are collaborating and writing, you're still learning something too, so that way you don't feel like, okay, it's 2 years into it and I still suck like, what.
Yeah, you make a good point too, in collaboration, and a lot of screenwriters work together. So that's another option is collaboration. And so this goes back to the point I made earlier about your working dynamics. Can you work well with people? Are you easily offended? Because when you're writing, you guys are not going to agree on everything. Like you may have a partner that's really good with dialogue, but you're really good with story structure. Yes. And you need to be okay with, someone saying, oh no, that dialogue sucks. Or maybe think about doing it like this. And you can't get offended and then not move forward on your project because your feelings are hurt. You need to be able to work well with people, take criticism, take feedback, and leverage that to make your story better and make yourself stronger. One of the biggest problems that screenwriters have in the studio system is taking notes. They can't stand when an executive comes in and says, well, you need to change this on page whatever and change that. And, executives can be harsh. They're pressed for time. They have a lot of things on their plate. They want to have direct communication. They don't have a lot of time to necessarily stroke your ego. Sometimes producers will do a better job of that, but they're like, this is what needs to be fixed. And they're not writers. So sometimes their ideas suck. And you have to be able to take it with grace and go back and find the gems in what they say and know and discern what things you really need to change, just like they told you to change, and what things maybe you could solve in a different way. And you need to be willing to go back and say, well, is this okay? Or is this what you had in mind? And try to understand and even ask, well, why do you think that needs to be changed? Let me understand that so I can do it more effectively. Whether you do it just literally as they said it needs to be done, or you use your creative juices as a writer to do it in a different way to solve the problem. Is it something having to do with the business model? Is it something having to do with the structure? But you have to be able to receive feedback and get along with people. And even if it's where you go out and you find a screenwriter, again, you have to have people skills. You have to be able to connect with people. You have to know where to go to network. You have to research those places and be there. And I've heard people say, and I'll throw it out here as we wrap this part up, is 80% is just showing up. Be in the room. Know how, again, going back to the, when you pitch people, know how to leave people wanting more. Give them something compelling and, draw them in. Don't overwhelm them and be needy, like, oh, I'm desperate. I'm looking for a screenwriter. They're like, whoa, no, no, so people skills and emotional intelligence is very important there, and being able to work with people.
Let's talk about pitch. I want to go back to that pitching thing. I want to go back to it from the perspective of the literary person, right? And then just a business owner that is sitting here, somebody that has a line of cosmetics and they want to expand on it. They want to get it into different stores and things like that. And they feel like they need a venture capitalist. So how would they pitch? How many minutes? Tell us a little bit about this elevator pitch. And is it 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Is it the first 2 seconds that catch your attention? Because like, if you are like myself, if people send me screenplays, I've seen people send me screenplays and say, well, do you think you can produce this? And the thing is, if you don't catch me in the first 2 pages or 3, if I don't see a bam moment in the first three, and because that's 3 minutes right there.
Right.
If I don't see it.
Yeah. So it's about a page per minute. I'm not going to
read the whole thing.
Absolutely. And that's why I go back, start with the log line. Can you write a log line? And it's amazing to me, if you are serious about pursuing your craft, you should know these things. You should do your homework. And if you're going out and pitching people and you don't know the homework, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're only going to have one chance to make a first impression. And so do you want that impression to be like, this person has not done enough research to be pitching me in the first place, right? So if if it's a written pitch, it's one thing. If it's you meet me in person, it's another thing, right? So if you want to be a screenwriter, if you're a filmmaker, any real filmmaker or screenwriter, I mean professional, is going to master their craft, whether they go to film school or they have a library of all of these foundational texts, like I had mentioned, where it's the bid. They're going to understand the overview of the business, who's who, what kind of producer does what. It's very complicated. Again, we could do a whole master class just on that.
Oh yes. Right? We're working on that too. Yes.
At least have a general understanding of the industry and how it works. And there is going to naturally be some disruption to that, but understand the history of the industry and how it works, and then drill down into your area. So if you're a screenwriter, you want to read several books about best practices in screenwriting. And once you know the rules, you can break them, right? You can go Quentin Tarantino or whatever you want to do, but you have to understand what the conventions are first. And so again, you should know how to write a compelling log line. What is a log line? A log line is a 1-sentence description, two at the most. But if you're really good at your craft, you're going to be able to convey in 1 sentence who is the protagonist and what is the setup. So I like to tell people, like a rule of thumb for writing a good log line is, tell us in 1 sentence what happens in the first 15 minutes. You don't have to tell me the end of the story, because what's the point? I don't want to know the ending. But say if it's, a 15-year-old runaway, has to figure out how to, find her, her drug addicted mother or something, I don't know, like whatever the story is, you have to be able to describe it in 1 sentence. What is the setup of the movie? And then you want to convey in 1 paragraph the summary, right? And then if you have a 90 to 120 page script, which is 90 to 120 minutes, 1 minute per page, as you mentioned, break that down into a treatment If I'm interested in the log line and the summary, then I'm going to want to see the treatment before I commit to 120 pages. Give me 4 pages that break down act 1, act 2, act 3. And know how to do that right. Like, again, if you've studied your craft, you're going to do it right. All of it, for example, the first time you introduce a character, it should be in all caps. If you don't know that, then that tells me you're a novice and that you've not done your research. Because if I'm in act 3 and you mention a character and I've forgotten who they are, I want to be able to go back into act 1 and see their name in all caps and see what the description of them is. Okay, so there's and the same thing in a screenplay, right? You want to write it in first person, not in first person. You want to write it in active tense. So she walks into the room.
You're cracking some. You're giving them a lot here.
So yeah, if you're not doing that, then you're, in your treatment, then I'm going to wrap it up and, move on, because you've not done the work. It's not that you're not able to do it. It's just that you're too early. And you'll hear that in BC too. They'll say you're too early. We just know something about you. Maybe you're nervous when you pitch, and I've been there, right? Or maybe, it's just something that conveys you're too early. You've not done the work. You got to do a little bit more. I'm interested, but I have reservations. So, those are some ways that you can, move along better if you do your research and know how to present yourself professionally. So that's in writing. And that's a lot. We can go deeper in the masterclass, but that's a lot just to get you started. And if you're pitching in person, it goes back to what we said earlier. Give me 1 sentence. My name is so-and-so. I wrote a story about this in 1 sentence.
Please, can you say that again? Because I'm going to tell you why I want you to say that again. So I have my lovely ones in my mastermind class, right? So I tell them, well, okay, we were talking about brand story, their brand story. What is your brand story? So I said, okay, go into the group and just do a little video. Well, they were all beautiful videos, except, it was like 5 minutes. Somebody even had 10 minutes of, I said, it was a beautiful thing, but this is no longer a pitch, because.
Right. Now it's your documentary. It's your backstory. And it happens all the time, because these projects are our babies. Even here, like on this interview, I love you because I can talk about, my companies, my babies, right? We can all go on and on about how beautiful our babies are. Yeah. But, you have to wait for the appropriate time to do that. When we're having coffee together, this is a great time to wax poetic about your whole, all these different dynamics of your business plan. But I don't want to hear that when there's 5 people standing behind you waiting to shake my hand.
Woo, Lord Jesus.
So just show me that you're professional and that, you're not difficult to work with by just introducing yourself, telling me enough that I will remember you when you follow up. And then understand that, okay, you just met me and I just met, 20 other people today. I may not be able to get back to you tomorrow. Yeah. I may not be able to get back to you next week, but if you follow up with me and you were professional, I'm going to remember you, because that's my job. My job is to remember people who stand out.
So the whole idea is for them to do something or say something that makes them stand out.
Yes. And part of that is just knowing how to introduce yourself and to not pitch assault. I met a really dynamic entrepreneur. You mentioned like a cosmetic company, right? So, if you're an entrepreneur, I met this really dynamic entrepreneur and I saw all these things about him that tell me this is a go-getter. Right now, he's very early, right? So, we connected. He sent me a follow-up and I'm like, okay, he's a go-getter. He's diligent. He's doing what he says he's going to do. But then he started sending me lots and lots of messages. Like, yes, I'm responding to you because I'm interested. But if you go too far with that too soon, it goes back to dating, stretch it out a little bit, and respect that, I'm not at a point yet where I'm willing to invest a whole lot of time in you because I'm doing other thing. So, wait your turn, drip out on me and let me know that I can trust you not to take advantage of my time or my
God.
Because we're all busy, right? And so, yes, I'll be willing to sit down and spend an hour, over coffee with you, but you may have to wait 3 weeks.
Wow.
You may have to wait 3 months. You know what I'm saying? It depends. But if you are patient and you're not just waiting on me, you're not dependent on me. No one wants you to be entirely dependent on them, right? Yes. Go out and keep working it. Keep meeting others. Keep getting traction so that when we do meet, for coffee, you can tell me the progress you've made since the last time we talked. That's compelling.
This is really good, because ever so often we have people where I remember I had one person that came to me, and this particular person, once he heard somebody told him that he was great, he didn't even have time to sit down anymore. He went out and started doing all kind of stuff. And now he's out there in the space. I even have no clue. He's so far off from where he even began and what he wanted to do. A lot of people do not have patience. Can you tell them that this is a process, that it takes time and is a process?
Yeah. So I don't know if this person went off just chasing waterfalls. I don't know. But, if you're serious about something, you're going to stick with it. And so as an investor, if I'm going to invest in you, it's like I'm marrying you. Okay. And
say that again. You're marrying that person.
Yes. And it's weird because it's polygamous. I get it. Well, for some people, that's not so weird. Okay. But,
yeah, for people like us from Africa, no, what you're talking about?
It's like, okay, you need several, so you need help, right? No, but when investors are polygamous lovers. So,
I love that.
And so, we're willing to love you, but no, like one of the things we want to see is commitment, right? So if I'm going to get into a relationship with you and I'm investing in you, I want to know that you're in it for the long haul and that you're going to be able to weather the vicissitudes. So, this is part of why when you pitch, and this is like maybe your longer pitch, so not necessarily the 1 minute, or 30-second I just met you pitch, but when you're able to, like if you're doing a pitch competition and it's a 3-minute or a 5-minute pitch, I want to know why you, because we have like a Lyft and Uber and all these different ride sharing apps around the world, right? There's various ones, but why is one going to succeed over the other? Or why is one just differentiated and attracting a different market than the other, right? So right now, one of Lyft's things is we're not Uber, right? We have a better culture. So that's how they're differentiating, right? Or one of the ways they're differentiating. And they each have their own unique histories and founder backstories. And investors are going to know that. They're going to look into that and they're going to say, why should I invest in you in the long haul? So if, for example, you're a nurse, right?
Yes.
And so you deal with a lot of people. You probably have dealt with people that are drug addicted. You've probably dealt with people that are suicidal. You've probably dealt with immigrants. You've probably dealt with people from various backgrounds. And I'm sure that informs your storytelling.
Absolutely.
Right. And one beautiful thing about being a storyteller is that, you could be any career.
That's right.
That's going to inform your storytelling, and maybe you want storytelling to be your primary career, but living life and seeing the world is going to inform that. So I'm going to assume that as a nurse that your experiences inform your storytelling, and that's part of your why. Like I hear these stories, and as a writer, I must tell them. These characters speak to me that their stories need to be told. If I hear a writer that's bringing their perspective into why they're writing a movie, or an entrepreneur saying, hey, I had this experience, like I gave you guys my why, my background of why I'm doing CineShares and Diversity Ventures. So it doesn't matter how many years it is that got to, and how many different dynamics in the world changed. My resolve has not changed. I've remained committed to the goal of providing access to capital and distribution for storytellers and entrepreneurs. And that's part of my why. It's part of my DNA. So when an investor knows that you're not going to give up, then they know that, that's a good, that is at least it de-risks that part of the investment, that you're not going to wake up tomorrow and say, yeah, I don't really like this. I'm going to try
something else tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's just, a little bit of answering that. And I could go on about that, but I think that kind of answers the gist of it.
Wow. So let me look, because we're going to wrap up now, because here's the deal. If you're out there, please, Tessa, if you're out there, can you throw that link again? Please throw that link. All of you put up that link and get into that mailing list, because once we're done, I have to now settle down with her and figure out when she's going to be able to start taping the masterclass for you all. because I'm telling you, I'm sitting here now. There's just a lot to know. There's a lot to know. Every angle that you talked on, I felt like we needed more for every angle that you touched. For example, like that pitch one now, I know all of us need the help with that pitch because we love ourselves enough to say our story is that one, and so we will just go on and on and on unless somebody stop us. Somebody's gonna have to stop us, otherwise we just keep going. So we need help with that. We need help understanding the mindset of a venture capitalist. I need to write this down. We need help understanding the mindset, right, ladies? Right, Linda? Yeah. We need you guys throw out there. Can you throw on the board for me what else you need help with? We need help to understand, because I see your mind going there. Like, I want to go into that mind. I want to see what is the mindset of a venture capitalist, because I think if we understand the mindset, right, that would actually help us a little bit, right? Hey, Tiffany, it will help us a little bit to say, okay, to prepare ourselves. Now, I don't want y'all to get really, because I know that some of them are probably like afraid now, like, oh my God, are we ever going to be able to get to a point where we can even pitch anything? But the truth is, it's all up to you. If you start today and start working at it, than not do anything, you have two choices. One is to start today and say, you know what? We got valuable information today. I thought I was it. Now I know I'm not even it yet. So now I need to backtrack and look at all the things I have. I think what I'm going to do, because in the I think it's let me see now, drfumihancock.com. I have some writing services there. Just listening to you now, I'm going to try and compile a list of some really powerhouse screenwriters out there, and books and things that can help you all. Because bottom line is, you don't want to waste a venture capitalist time. You waste that one time. It's a one-shot deal, y'all. You waste it. The next time you come in the dock, like, you ain't getting my time, woman. So you want to be very careful. You want to be very strategic about really, really coming to see, because you're looking at her up here now, and you're like, oh yeah, but you got to be ready. You got to be ready, because I'm going to tell you, she is a hard one, because she would throw questions at you in a heartbeat. You'll be on one side and she'll throw something. So you need to be really, really, thank you, Linda. You need to be prepared. And if you are part of this tribe here, don't worry. This is why I'm bringing all the speakers to you, so that they can open up. I'm not bringing to you people that say something. No, I'm talking about people that, and just the little she says now, she's doing it. It's not something that she read and she's now faking it. This is her life. And so it's important for you on this set. I am Princess of Suburbia, that when we bring people like this to you, then you're ready to also take their master class to even get better. If you've been wasting your money a long time ago, well, welcome aboard the ship, because now you don't have to waste no money now. Now you have to really sit down. That coffee, that 3 times a day coffee that you drink, that you buy $7 a cup, now you need to now start saving it for your own future, Now, as we wrap up, I want us to really sit down with business people. Let's sit down. How would a business people, okay, do business people do they come to you and pitch to, or is there a word for the business? Like, if they're not in writing and all that, are those ones under diversity venture, or what? Talk to us about that.
Okay, so with diversity ventures, again, it's more geared towards companies that are scalable and that have, some social, economic, or environmental impact. I'm very interested in clean tech, water, energy, food. I'm interested in consumer-facing products as well, particularly those that are helmed by underrepresented founders and that target maybe underrepresented markets. It could be a broad market, that's great, but maybe it starts off in an underserved market, or just has some insight that comes from a founder from an underrepresented background. So that might be a a female founder who has insight about, a female-oriented product, or, a female-dominated market. I mean, it's half the population, right? It could be, from a geographic perspective. It could be from, a socioeconomic perspective, where I know that poor people deal with this, and here's this market of poor people, and here's this problem they face. It's not that they don't have money to address this, but this is where the gap is. I mean, you can see, for example, the prison industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's a company out there that deals with how expensive it is to just have phone calls with inmates, right? And so they're solving in that area. So, that's an example that's informed by maybe a socioeconomic background or exposure to a certain socioeconomic background or demographic. So it could be social, economic, environmental. That's our focus. And again, interested in underrepresented founders. But when they come, it's best to be prepared with, yes, your short pitch, right? If you meet me in person, absolutely say, this is my name, this is my company, this is a problem we solve. And you should be able to do that in 1, 2, 3 sentences max. Then typically in venture capital, an entrepreneur will have a deck, and that deck is typically going to be somewhere between 9 and 15 pages or so. It could be more or less, but you kind of want to stick to the less is more again, and just give like, what is the problem, what is the solution, how are you unique, what's your market, how do you go to market. And there's examples out there. You can Google pitch decks, VC pitch decks, or startup pitch decks, and get some examples. And of course, be unique, be you, but practice good design, practice communicating concisely and effectively without like a gazillion words on a page. Know the difference between a visual and an email deck, something that you present versus something that you send that might have a little more information on it. So you would want to have those things, and you want to start preparing your diligence documents from day one. So if we deal with really early stage founders, so typically they have a validated idea, they've gone through their business model canvas, they know what their market is, there's some proof of that, but they don't necessarily have to have like traction, so to speak, of 100,000 daily active users or whatever. So we will look at entrepreneurs very early stage, and we will help them to validate, but they should at least have their idea very clear, know their market. They should have done their research, and have their business model mapped out.
So let me ask you a question. Whatever the product or services is, should they have it? Should they own rights to it? Does it make it more? Does it make it more appealing to you if it's something that is proprietary that they own rights to, or can they build on somebody else's idea and still bring it to you?
Well, there's different schools of thought on that. You could do something that's already out there and make it 10 times better, right? Like arguably Steve Jobs, when he came out with the iPod, he was improving upon the Walkman, right? You have Facebook improving upon MySpace, and there was what was the other pioneering social network? So you can improve upon something that's out there, but you definitely want to have something proprietary, or else there's no barrier to entry. Someone else can come in and disrupt you. Yes. But that said, a big part of that is just your execution. What's unique about you? Do you have access to a certain market? Do you have certain insight that's going to take years for other people to develop? That could be, the proprietary aspect there.
Wow, this is good. This is good.
So again, you look at Lyft and Uber, they're both doing ride sharing, and they're slightly different, but mostly the same. What differentiates them? It's they have slightly different business models, right? So there's some things that you can patent, some things that aren't. It's a case by case. But again, like, I think if you're an entrepreneur, there's a certain DNA that's going to drive you, and that's going to give you insight. And you can just feel it. Like, as an investor, you can feel that energy. You can feel that insight. You can feel the passion. And, if you're onto something, we know it. And if you're vacillating, you're not really confident, and, we feel that too. So, there's not one silver bullet to getting it right. there's just got to be something that you just feel in your gut that keeps you going every day, that makes you want to wake up and solve this problem. And you have to trust that that's going to come across, and just, position yourself, like I said, do the research, cover your bases, and position yourself, show up, develop the relationships, stay connected, add value, and, allow the process to take its course. So it's not that, yes, if there's something proprietary, that helps, but it's a dynamic, right? There's a whole lot of things that come together that will attract the people to your team, to your company, to invest. There's a lot of dynamics that come together. And if you're driven and you have that DNA, you're going to kind of navigate those things intuitively.
So let me wrap up with this question. Where are you hoping to go with these two companies? What do you see for yourself with this company, as far as investing in other people and bringing people? What do you see? What do you envision?
So with CineShares, I'll start with that, since we're creative, right brain people here today. With CineShares, again, my objective was always to empower filmmakers and storytellers, and to open doors to access to capital and distribution. So, I'm relatively creative, but there are way more talented people out there than I am. Where I'm probably more gifted is connecting the dots between, business and people, right? And so I feel like I can help more people and have a greater impact by, using CineShares to help filmmakers fundraise, to get into production, to go to market, right? And so my objective with that is to empower as many filmmakers as possible and to produce content that is inclusive, right? And so that doesn't mean that every project has to have every color of the rainbow. No, but what it means is that I want to facilitate more stories being told. And I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, green, male, female, LGBT, whatever, Q, those things don't matter. What matters is, do you have a story that needs to be told? And is it getting out there? I want to see multifaceted representations of people in the world that honor different cultures and help us to understand and get along with each other. I think that's the role of the storyteller. That's the role of filmmaking. Storytelling goes back thousands of years, and that's the purpose it serves, to convey stories, to tell who we are culturally, to help people understand culture and each other. So that's my, big objective, is just to help facilitate getting these amazingly talented stories out into the market and serving those who don't see themselves on the screen as much as they should, and bringing them together with, those mainstream stories that get like over-indexed. So, that's the objective there. And, with Diversity Ventures, very similarly, we have shown, the data shows that when there's gender diversity, when there's ethnic diversity, it improves the bottom line. It eliminates groupthink, right? And so how much more so when you bring in, geographic diversity? We've seen so many companies that are helmed by immigrants that have created tens and thousands of jobs, millions of jobs collectively, right? And so when you bring in diversity of thought, it helps businesses overall. And we believe that diversity comes from a lot of different factors, not just gender and ethnicity. Those are obviously very important because women and people of color have been historically excluded, and we're remedying for that. So we have to be more intentional about it, but there's all kinds of diversity that influences the success of businesses. So, part of our objective in venture capital is to capitalize on that diversity, right? Capitalize on diverse perspectives and demonstrate that, hey, this can be done. This is how you do diversity. There's so much controversy about it. So, our objective is to invest in companies that harness that power of diversity to create these, amazing scalable companies that outperform. So that's the objective. And in all of these ways, we can create jobs. We can, improve the world. We can, solve problems, whether they're environmental, economic, social. That's the big picture. I want to spend my life making this world better than when I came in, or at least, doing my part. So.
So the way that I see this, because I'm listening to you now, and the way that I see it is, I don't know, you might end up with two master classes because I'm looking at, the left brain and the and the other brain, the writers and the storytellers, and I'm looking at, that part, and then I'm also looking at those who are here who are also business that are not necessarily writers. And so, well, we got work, we got work for you to do behind the scenes. What can you just give us one wisdom as we close out? One wisdom. We're going to compile. I'm going to have my tribe compile some questions so that you and I will probably have to figure out a date to meet again and begin to map out how to get these master classes out of it, out of inside, from inside of you, and get it out into a box where people can actually now come and partake of it, because there's so much. I'm sitting here saying, I'm thinking about my own movie too now, like, oh shoot. All right, now which one qualifies with everything that she's talking about now? So can you just give us a wisdom? Just give us one wisdom nugget.
Just gosh, just do the work and show up.
I like do the work. I'm going to write this down. Do the work.
Do your research.
And show up.
Do your research and show up. Yes.
Research and show up. Well, thank you so much. I tell you, this has really been, right, guys? Yep. This has really, really been informative. This is not the end of it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the end of it. This is what I'm going to ask of you. Ramona, please keep that poster card. We have a poster card instead of a group. And underneath that poster card, I pulled out these questions, and it's just like, we're going to love those questions and turn them into part of your masterclass, because it's a lot. So, okay, so thank you, Ramona. Philip said, thank you so much for coming out to share your knowledge with us. Who else is there? Who else? I can barely see anybody. I see people there. I just can't see their name. My eyes are like, right. So I'm just going to thank her for you all. Okay. Debbie says this was an awesome informational session. Andrea said, yes, a whole wealth of information, much to process. See, Andrea, I've been telling you all about process. See what she said again? Christine Mason said, absolutely awesome. Thank you for your sharing. Medina says, great session. Thank you for sharing such powerful information and knowledge. Keep it coming, y'all. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. So I think they're all typing. But, it's just been a great one. Anybody else, if you have questions, please, when we're done, I know this, you guys are going to share this. Take this online and share it. Florida says, excellent information. Please do click the share button and share it. Andrea says, thank you so much. I appreciate your knowledge. Share this, please. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your LinkedIn. Share it wherever you can share it. Because what I'm going to do at the end of the day, I'm going to share this on LinkedIn and tag you too. Debbie says, will there be a replay? Look, your paper. All right, Debbie, there's going to be a replay. I'm going to leave this on. I am Princess of Suburbia for you for a while, for a tad bit. I will leave it for a while for you guys can really come back and share it. Share it for as many people as you can share it, because I see a lot more comments coming, but my eyes cannot follow them. So I'm just going to pretend and tell you all she appreciates you all because I can see. Tessa says, thank you for the information. Florida says, absolutely, I'm going to share it. Excellent information. Thank you all so much. Hall Edith Joyce, outstanding contributor for our members and ourselves. Thank you for the information and support. Debbie Olusa said, many, many thanks. My eyes are like, ooh. So thank you all so much. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Let's talk behind the scenes, because now we promised them a masterclass.
Yeah, now the real work begins, right?
Exactly. So now let's make it happen. But you know what though? I kind of think that I make it easy on people that do it. I have when Dr. Mansfield wanted to do it, he thought he was just gonna be in the studio, like he was gonna be there for like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. By the time I finished the script with him, it was done in like 4 hours. He couldn't believe it. It was like, what?
Well, here's a perfect example. And again, for your viewers, I give them credit because they're watching you and you're going out and you're executing. And, I see that, I commend that. You're adding value. So not only are you adding value to your audience, which then gives you a channel when you bring more value items like your books, et cetera, which, obviously is your business, right? But in doing so, your product adds value, but the way that you keep in touch adds value. And then you're also adding value to people like me who want to educate the business people. I want to see entrepreneurs. I want to see you guys, come to me and approach me, right? So I can help you. I want to see that. I want to see you shine and take off. That's my job. So the fact that you're providing a mechanism to, again, scale, right? Because one-on-one having coffee, I'm talking to one person. But, in this almost 2 hours that we've had, we've been able to reach so many more. And so that multiplies my time. So you've added value to me and being able to get that information out there. I appreciate you. I commend you and encourage your audience to continue watching you because you're doing something right. You're a doctor for a reason.
Thank you, and thank you so much. This is what I've always wanted to do because I've been in their seat before where people just bring fluffy things and you take all your money and you waste it. And at the end of wasting it, you look around and you're still not moved. And so for me, with everything that I've been through in Hollywood and all that, and then still come out of it, I promise that if I get an opportunity, I would always make it one that people would know that something is different about this platform. And this is what I bring to them. I bring to them authentic people. I don't bring any kind of fluffy people. They know that I'm very careful about what I do. Otherwise, I would shut this down for 2 months and don't do nothing until I find the right person. That's just the kind of person I am because I really believe that, like with you, you've shown the value now. You've shown the value. I don't have to sell you to them. You've shown the value already. And I know that at the end of the day, when I leave here, they're gonna be coming to me like, okay, when is the class? Yesterday we did a soft launch. Is it yesterday or 2 days ago? We did a soft launch of Stephen Mansfield. So he came back again because now he was like, oh, this is fun. So he was able to come back when we did the soft launch. And it was just incredible to see. And for them, at least they can see that when I say I'm going to deliver, I deliver.
Right.
And that is the kind of attitude that they all need to have as entrepreneurs. When you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. You've got to do it. Get it out of the way and do it. And everyone that comes on this channel, they would have a masterclass because they were picked, specifically, strategically. You were picked strategically. Right, so it was a strategic picking of you, and so and so because I know what they need, and because of what I hear them talk to me about a lot of times in the group, and what I see when I mentor them, because there are some people in my group right now, mastermind, they'll be so hilarious right now just watching you, just hilarious because I've seen their business plans, I've seen what they need, and I know that they need you desperately. And so for them now, this is like, wow, thank you, God. God is just bringing things and people my way. So thank you so much for even answering the call. I really appreciate it. And like you said, this is not the end. We just began the relationship, but we're gonna go further. Let's do the masterclass, give it to them, and then you and I, we got work to do because you know what? I need to make some movies. I need to make some movies. So yeah, I'm gonna rely on, I wanna
iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Let's see now. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being a part of this. Did you all get something from it? If you got something from this interview, can you put yes on the chat box for me? If you know you got something, do your little star, do your little like. Let me know that you got something out of this. If you came in, hey, Lady Niver, did you see that I used you as an example? Yes. Did you see that I used you as an example, Lady Niver? I used Lady Niver as an example softly right there. So absolutely good, good, wonderful, awesome. Yeah. Oh, Abby, I'm glad you made it. Please make sure you watch the replay. There was a lot of nugget that she cracked there. Was she, right, Lady Niver? You saw that? Yeah, I deliberately used you because I felt like there were things that you needed to know. So I deliberately used you. The whole idea of bringing her is not to scare you. Let me say that again. Oh, Linda, I'm glad you're still there. Yes, it was heavy stuff, wasn't it? That's right. You're going to have to watch this 2 or 3 times before you catch many of what she was talking about. Christine, I'm so glad you made it. So much knowledge revealed. Absolutely. You guys are going to have to watch it 2 or 3 times before you catch it. And the reason why it's heavy is because it's venture capitalist, right? It's about money. And anytime you're talking about other people's money, yes, it's going to be heavy. You hear me? Anytime you start talking about other people's money, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy. Anytime you talk about other people's money, it's going to be heavy. All right. So it's up to you now, right, to now do your due diligence. And your first due diligence is I'm going to leave this on for you guys to really go back and eat it up. Some of the things that I'm going to start doing once the official Storyteller Bistro goes on is those who are members in that group in Storyteller Bistro, they will start getting more of powerhouse people like this inside of Storyteller Bistro. I will no longer be doing it on Facebook, but you will have to go into Storyteller Bistro because that way I can really get a grasp of those who are coming in and out of my broadcast. And so it is heavy because it has to do with other people's money. But the truth is, it is something that we need to know, right, people? It is something that we need to know. We cannot begin to live in an ignorant way where people will package something for $59.99 and tell you that this is all you're going to get. Now you know that it takes more than somebody giving you something for $59.99, right? You know it takes more than that. Now you know now that when somebody tells you that, oh, they can do the moon and the stars for you, right? Now you know that it takes more than that. Now you know it's serious business, right? Now you know if somebody comes to you and say, oh, this one is $100, then you have to look in the eye and say, I don't know about that because just listening to this woman tells me that this is a whole lot of problem. Now you know that you have to be extremely serious about your business, whatever the business is. But one thing I can say for sure is that because of the connection that I have with her now, I can really ask her, please, can you do this with my group? But one thing I know for sure is I'm not going to ask her for somebody who is light today and darkness tomorrow. I'm not going to ask. There were some things that she said that was really powerful. She said, when you are in this business, you cannot be too sensitive. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And the thing is, she's not the first person to say that, right? She's not the first time we will hear that. Somebody telling us that you cannot be too sensitive, right? You cannot be too sensitive when we're talking about business here. Because when they're trying to correct you, You have to say, you know what? I got this correction. This is what I need to do. And let me do the work. Let me do the work. Let me do the work. So please drop the form out there again. I would ask you guys to please fill out that form. This is not going to be the end of how you see her. Now we go, she and I will go into work, and we do some contracts, and then I'll get her to do our class. Well, at this rate, she might end up with 2 classes, one for the storytellers, the writers, and one for the entrepreneurs, because either way, we need this information. If you are out there and you're saying at some point you want to extend or expand your business, we need this information. We need the information to let us know. Many of you right now who are writers, now you have to start thinking, how can my business be scalable? Linda, you're going to start thinking now, how can my business be scalable? Andrea, you have to say, how can my business be scalable? Remember what I taught you guys in the mastermind class when I said there is a tool. Remember, I'm not going to share more than that. Remember when we broke it down and we said tool. Go back to that course, go back to that class, go back to what we talked about then. When I said to you guys, there is a tool. There's also a tool. The tool is what she was talking about, where trademark is concerned, where rights is concerned. When you have something, you have an asset, your company has an asset that they can look at, your tool. So again, if you have any questions, please go into Sister Tribe. There is a postcard up there. Throw your questions in there. Ramona Jones, at the end of the day, please, can you just pull those questions for me? Do you remember? You remember, Andrea? Right? When I was talking about tools? Well, that's what she was talking about here too. So thank you all so much. God bless you. Stay blessed. This is a wrap. We're going to take a breather, and let me see now. If I don't come back tomorrow afternoon, then I will come back certainly on Monday. Please, I want you guys to consider if you have now pre-ordered Dr. Stephen Mansfield's masterclass. Go to Storyteller Bistro. You're welcome, Florida. Go to storytellerbistro.com, storytellerbistro.com. There are 2 things there, the Q&A, right, which is $9, and then the masterclass, which is $2.99. It is worth every dime. You hear me? Worth every dime. If you've been out there, if you're watching me and you've spent so much money on things, this is where you need to sit yourself down and be guaranteed that you are going to get the original stuff now. If you've been out there, now you can sit down and say, yes, I finally found a place where I can sit down and really learn from the masters. Learn from the masters. Because here's the thing, I have promised myself that as long as I have this, the people that I'm going to be bringing are going to be millionaires up. Let me say that again. They are going to be millionaires up. And I'm working my way through it. I'm working my way through it. Is the link in the IM groups? What link, my dear? No, it's if you scroll up, can somebody do that link again? Can somebody do that linked tree link? Is a linked tree link, and I want you guys to put your name in it so that information. The reason why I had to sign up, okay, is linked tree. Can somebody, I don't know, who can help me out with that? Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Linda. That's it over there. Linda just posted it. I had to use wisdom with this too because it was important so that she's not inundated with all these people, everybody just calling or everybody trying to reach her, but we can put it in one part so that when our masterclass comes up, then that is where she starts sending things out and be able to tell you guys that the masterclass, we'll be able to tell you that the masterclass is up. So please join that mailing list and we will continue to inform you. All right, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much. And it is a wrap. Bye for now.